Good evening. My name is Brady Sistrunk with the MSU Alumni Association, and welcome to the Ask the Experts series, a new online event series established to engage young alumni of Mississippi State. Each Ask the Experts series will feature different topics that you may want to learn about, from networking to how to start a business, even cocktail recipes or healthy cooking classes. So be sure to join us down the line for future episodes. But tonight's installment of Ask the Experts will focus on how young alumni can start a side business in a virtual world. This evening, we have Jeffrey Rupp and Eric Hill from the Entrepreneurship Center in the College of Business. Jeffrey Rupp is the Director of Outreach and Corporate Engagement for the College of Business at Mississippi State University. And in that capacity, he also runs the University Center that is funded by the Economic Development Administration. Eric Hill serves as the Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Outreach at Mississippi State. And in this role, Eric assists students, faculty, and staff in developing business models to transform inventions into profit-seeking innovations. So now we'll turn it over to Eric Hill and Jeffrey Rupp for this presentation.
Thanks, Brady. How come we didn't get an option to do the cocktail class is what I want to know. Eric, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, Brady, thanks for having us here. Thank you for everybody who's tuning in. We're here to hopefully share with you some ideas. It's an exciting time in the world. And I know that's a weird statement to say as we're all going through a pandemic. But as with all major events that are disruptive, there are also opportunities. And I think one of those opportunities that we're hopefully going to talk about tonight is the ability to start a business while you're working elsewhere. And start a business that can grow and be something that, it could be huge and something that you end up changing careers and going into, or a nice side business that you can run for years and years and years to explore one of those hobbies or carry it forward. So Jeff and I are happy to be here. We're going to keep this very informal and have just a conversation about it. So.
Yeah, well, and Eric is modest. He has started and sold. Are you on your fourth company now?
This, I believe, is number 4.
Yeah, so he has it in his DNA to always be starting and creating businesses. I've got a side hustle. I guess you can see the guitars back there. I torture people in local watering holes here and sing for my supper. And I will say this: if you're thinking of considering a lifestyle business, which what mine it would categorize as. It has brought me so much joy and has been so much fun. And the fact that I'm an old guy and still get to do it, and then it supports my habit, and it pays for family vacations and holidays and things like that. So that's sort of the benefits, right? And then the hustle you have to put into actually, in my case, learn a couple of chords and be able to sing passably. But the benefits from it, even if it's not a career change for you, it is greatly enhanced. I'd say my life. And Eric, it has led actually to your career.
Yeah, that's right. So I think there's a lot to talk about there. And Jeff, you raise an interesting point. That is, a lot of great business opportunities come out of things you love and hobbies you love. And in your case, you've turned it into a really nice income source, but also an outlet to decompress from whatever the week brings. And so you raised another term too that I think was a good discussion point of lifestyle business. And so lifestyle businesses are businesses that inherently are designed to create a founder or an owner's lifestyle of their choice or accent the way they want to live their life. And there's a lot of great businesses like that. Part of our interesting work marriage, Jeff and I, is my background's in what we call sort of the new product tech business. And so in my case, I would say that all the startups that I've been involved with, at least in the last decade, have been side hustles as the start. And so, one of the topics we wanted to talk about tonight was how do you get started? And I would say that part of it comes from identifying what you want it to be and do. In Jeff's case, he mentioned about a hobby that he loves turning into something that supports an income, an extra income for his family. In my case, I'm the engineer, if you couldn't tell between the two of us, that just loves building new products. and solving problems. And as you work and as you go about your workday, you'll identify problems all the time of issues and things that cost the company money or ridiculously ineffective, problems in your life too that you find are annoying or convoluted. So really the gap between that and being a business opportunity is, am I the only one suffering it, or does anybody else suffer that problem too? And if the answer to the last question is yes, well, it's worth at least exploring to see, is there something here that can turn into something?
And if you do have an idea you want to explore, the E-Center can help you. We're housed in the College of Business, but we are open to students all over the campus, faculty, staff, and we love to work with alums as well. And the things that we can do is take the expertise and the guidelines and the program that Eric has developed for our students and help you walk through that sort of as a checklist when you start your business. So it's a great resource for MSU alums, and we would love to hear from you and help you. And we can do that in several ways. I'll talk in a minute about what I do with my MBA teams, but Eric, you want to talk them through what an external venture catalyst might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeff talks about a program at the Entrepreneurship Center, and it sounds way more fancy and sophisticated than it is. What we did was we took advice from a lot of MSU alums that were successful and asked them, where did you mess up when you were getting started? And we tried to build this into a process that is easy to follow. Just to unpack it briefly, the first part is sort of what we just talked about is there's a problem out there. Do others face it? Just trying to nail down, what is it that we actually care about? What is it that somebody cares about? And then if you look at the second stage of the program, it's all about figuring out, okay, Jeff's famous for using this in our entrepreneurship classes on campus, but the idea of, do you think or do you know? And you got to go figure out, do you know that people have those problems? Do you know that they have things that make them happy and things they're trying to accomplish? And how can you run an experiment to test that? And so that's what I would argue is one of the hardest parts to do, and the part that even companies that have raised a bunch of money, gotten ways down the runway, that's their full-time thing, still are trying to figure out, do we have something that people care about, and how do we know? So that's the front half of the program. For any of you that are joining in from the MSU Alumni Network, we support you, and we're happy to walk you through these processes and connect you with people that are in similar industries or who are facing similar, or who have faced similar problems that you're facing, to try to get you linked up. The Bulldog family is over 200,000 strong across the country and around the world. And it's every day, even after doing this job for years and years and years, every day we find somebody in the alumni network that is doing something just amazing that we've never heard about. And so those people are available for you as alumni, and we'll try to make those connections as we're able.
Yeah, and then another resource that I can help with is, Eric mentioned my tagline, do you think or do you know? And the only way to know is to do just a lot of research and a lot of work and a lot of talking to people, and that's difficult to do if this is a side hustle and you're also holding down a job and raising kids and just trying to live your life. So one thing we can help you with is assign a team of MBA students, and the last class they take before they get their MBA is a capstone class where they work with a real client. And those clients have included C Spire, Yokohama Tire, but also spin out startups from the university, from students, faculty, or alums. And what they'll do is they'll spend a semester and they'll try to answer those do you think or do you know questions. They can do everything from barriers to entry to supply chain to social media strategies. And so they'll spend a semester on this. And then at the end of that time, they'll present their findings to you, and then you'll get all the raw data, the written reports, and the recommendations. And that way you can make smart decisions moving forward.
You know, Jeff, I was just thinking, when we were talking about this talk, I was really sort of struggling on what to share with the idea of how to get going in business. And we had a great talk this afternoon at 4 o'clock that the center hosted with an alumni entrepreneur, Daniel Harrington. Great guy. He's at a company called Vroom, and if you weren't familiar with them, they had a Super Bowl ad this year, so pretty spectacular. Anyway, he was talking to the class, and he made a point today that I had forgotten about. And he said, to start a company, all you have to do is go register a name and file for a tax ID number, and it takes like $50 and a credit card, and you're a company. But the difference of going from starting a company like that and having something that is a true business is all about this idea that we're talking about, of finding a problem that somebody has to solve and figuring out, can you solve it? And it's not about the cool tech or the flashy technology that solves it. It's about solving the problem that person cares about. And you came up with an activity we did with the students the other night with you want to talk about the time traveler?
Well, yeah. And this goes back to something Eric had said earlier, where you might think this is a good idea, but you've got to be able to see if others feel that way. And the problem is we make assumptions like if I like Guinness, then everybody should like Guinness, right? Turns out most people don't. We have this bias that we sometimes bring into conversations, just assuming that people think and act like we do. So we did an exercise, and it's a fun one to try, that where you have two people, and one of them is trying to explain to the other a concept of something we do here in 2021. The catch is the other person is from the 1700s. So our students thought this was going to be a walk in the park, and then you would say, okay, order something from Amazon. So you're talking to the person from 1700, and you go, well, you go to the internet. Whoa, time out. What's the internet? And anyway, it turns out the most effective way to do it is to think about it from the other person's perspective. In the 1700s, how would you explain that? And so we had about 20 topics, from explain how you play baseball, explain a dating app, which actually Eric did a great job on, explain flying from Boston to Jackson, right? Anyway, the exercise, the intent was to start thinking more about the person you're talking to from their perspective. So that's certainly an important fun. That was a fun exercise.
Was. So
also, I'm sorry. I was going to say that you might start out with an idea and then realize halfway in that that's not it. That's not the killer application, but there is one out there, and I will show you an example here. This, folks, is what $1 million idea looks like. And this is a piece of plastic with some electronics in the back. And I'm sure you're familiar with this. You drop it in a glass and the liquid completes the circuitry and it lights up. And we had a student walk in the East Center, engineering student, who turned down a job with Tesla Motors to make plastic cubes that light up. And anyway, they started selling these to bars and casinos. You can brand them, and they were having a little bit of success. And then one day they got a letter from a mom who had an autistic child, and he literally physically fought her when she tried to put him in a tub. Out of desperation, she threw in a glow cube, tub lights up, completely changed the child's behavior. And so Glow had the smarts to pivot into sensory educational children's objects. And from that, they have really pivoted into where they have cut a deal where they're doing products, a national launch for a company that I guess we're not supposed to say, Elmo. So that's all I'll say about that. And they'll have a national launch next month. So now their company is worth millions of dollars from literally walking in the East Center with an idea, and we don't tell you whether it's a good or bad idea. The marketplace is going to do that. They had a little bit of success, and then as soon as they made their pivot, they now are going to retire, or possibly they could retire when they have their exit somewhere down the road for millions of dollars. So that's best case scenario.
And I think that story illustrates just how ideas can come from anywhere. And thinking back to the origin of Glow, it actually, Kaylee Mitchell was an art student and was working on a project that her faculty member had asked him to figure out, how do you create a product that can that can do all these different things. And in her case, it was how do you get Americans to drink more tea? And she had this concept of a light up tea bag where you drop the tea bag in the mug. I'll never forget meeting with her and Hagen on a Saturday morning downtown here in Starkville and then demonstrating it. Hagen probably would hate me to tell his story, but the first few ones didn't work. He was really upset that it didn't work, but you know, they were on to something at that point. And so you see the iteration from a simple idea of making a tea bag glow to get somebody to be more interested in drinking tea, all of a sudden winds up in a bathtub. And that's such a great story of how an entrepreneurial picture tends to look. You never know where it goes.
Right.
So continuing down the topic of the getting started, we talked about coming up with a problem or identifying a problem that somebody has and figuring out we might have some data that shows other people have this problem, then what? Well, of course, you have to try to come up with a solution, build a solution. And it just so happens that we have an amazing institution at MSU where we crank out people every day, great people that can build things and build things fantastically. So if you're an alumni out there and you're thinking about, I have an idea, I've got some validation to it, our office is happy to work with you on trying to figure out, is there a student design team? Or there an alumni group or company or firm that can help you bring that idea to market? What I would say is the side hustle has become a new kind of front and center because of the pandemic, but don't think about it just because it's a side hustle that it can't be a real tremendous success. Lots of great companies have started as side hustles and turned into companies that are doing lots and lots of business all over the place.
Yeah, and don't be embarrassed about your idea. I think I mentioned earlier, when you come see us, we won't tell you that it's a good or bad idea, but we'll encourage you to explore it, and we will also support you in any way we can. Because as I said, at the end of the day, the market will tell you whether or not it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's probably a core idea or core concept to talk about tonight too, is that expect that your first version or your first 10 ideas may not be the one that carry you forward. But to Jeff's point, it's not our office's job to tell you that. It's our office's job to help you find the way to figure out, is it a good idea? Some of our more successful entrepreneurs that are now, as Jeff mentioned, with multi-million-dollar valuations on their companies and even some far beyond that, it's their second or third strike that actually hit. And the nice thing, as all of you know, as alumni of Mississippi State, that the Mississippi State family is a family, and you find more open doors than closed doors. That's the same philosophy our program works with. So when you come with an idea, you won't just meet Jeff and I and the rest of our team here. You'll meet alumni that are helping to evaluate that group. And as I mentioned, if you follow us on Facebook and watch some of the live talks, the guy that spoke at 4, Daniel, again, was one of our reviewers on that panel, as well as a host of 30, 40 others every semester that review plans and review pitches and give advice. And just know that the most important takeaway from tonight, if you do try to engage in a startup, work with us, is that you're going to be brought into a network of people that are in your court to move forward, whether it's this idea or the next idea.
And just, we need to open it up for questions, but I want to say that the proof is in the pudding. In the last year or so, Eric has turned out over 100 student startups worth over $17 million. That did not exist at the university 5 years ago. So this is the guy you want to talk to. So does anyone have any questions?
Jeffrey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have a couple of questions. So as a recent grad, what would you say the first step is to wanting to start a business? Maybe your career didn't work, as you planned it after you graduated because of COVID. How can you give advice on what that first step is, either coming to the e-center or in the virtual world? How do you get started?
Well, you really need to know, each person's situation is unique and different. And I would say, Brady, make sure they have our contact info and just send us an email and we'll set up a time to talk. There's really no reason to do it here. and every situation is unique. So we would give you these glittering generalities when I think it would be better off talking with you one-on-one of where you are, what's working, what's not working, and where you want to be. But love to talk to you.
Yeah, and I would just add that in that case, one of the first things to do is to really evaluate yourself. What do you want out of it, right? What do you want? What is your motivation for thinking about entrepreneurship? Is it that you're looking for a career change and you want your full-time job to be something else? Is it supplemental income? Is it a pathway for you to explore something you've never explored? I think there's a lot of sort of self-assessment that needs to go into that, because the business that you start can look very different depending on what that motivation is or what you're trying to do. Are you motivated by this burning problem that you've seen for years and you just think, why has nobody solved this? That's a different motivation than saying, you know what, my family needs some extra income of a couple $100s a month. And the path that we would advise you on or encourage you down would probably look very different depending on that answer.
Okay, and then the next question would be, do you believe that in the virtual world that we live in now, do you think it makes it easier to start a side hustle or more difficult?
Infinitely easier, in my opinion.
Yeah, without question. Without question. I tell people all the time, at my home that's 15 minutes out of town in Starkville, I have as fast of internet as my sister and brother-in-law who live in Los Angeles, downtown Santa Monica. So the playing field is level from the standpoint of access to customers through the internet is better than ever before. The other thing is, before this, I remember in a business that I was working on, in-person meetings were a part of the sales process, and it was very expensive and very time consuming. And the expectation of that has kind of gone out the window with COVID, because so much of our life now is on what we're doing here through a Zoom window. And so the process of doing the normal business practices that required all this extra stuff that made the geography important is now in many ways much, much less important. I don't have to move to where the people are. We can reach them from anywhere.
Eric, we had a question about if we provide financial assistance, and we certainly don't do loans. We do have an angel network for our most promising startups, but I'm not sure where alums fit into the what requirements they meet.
Yeah, the angel network Jeffrey's referring to here is called the Bulldog Angel Network. It's not directly affiliated with Mississippi State. It's a private group of alumni who invest in student, faculty, and alumni founded companies. These are early stage investments. So, the check sizes are generally less than $1 million equity investments in the company, but they're doing deals. And it's a great opportunity for you to have access to somebody to pitch. We'd encourage you to reach out to us and just let our team kind of lay eyes on it and give you a sense of, is it really ready yet to do that pitch? Because you got to think the first impressions are indeed everything. So if our team can help you get it ready, the Bulldog Angel Network is definitely a great pathway for alumni to take advantage of. There's other funding sources as well that do what's called a sidecar deal or co-invest along the Bulldogs. So the Bulldog Investment Fund. So it's a great opportunity as well. I would also say that if you are on the flip side of that table and you were interested in looking at deals, the Bulldog Angel Network, it's a low cost to get involved. You have to be an accredited investor, but they welcome people to come and join and be part of that process. It's a growing group led by some alums in ECE alum Wade Patterson started it over in Huntsville.
Okay, perfect. I believe that's all the questions that we have right now, unless either one of you would like to add anything, closing remarks.
No, just encourage folks to reach out. We're easy to find, and we'd truly love to help you. That's our mission.
I would say if there's one message that I can hope sticks tonight, it's if you have that idea, please try it. Please try it. You never know what will stick. There's really the only person that's out there saying it's not going to work is the voice in your head. And so many people fail to start just because they're worried about it landing bad and impacting them. So really the first step is to try it, and please do so. A former business partner always used the expression, all that's left to do is to do. And I believe that applies here very well.
It's good words of advice, Eric. Thank you both, Jeffrey and Eric, for joining us this evening. And thank you all for joining us for Ask the Experts. Hail State.
Hail State.
We'll stay.